And I want to thank everyone who's here with us this afternoon. Thank you for your service. Thank you for sharing your personal stories of pain. It's very difficult for me to hear that as a mom. It's very tough. So I want to thank you all today. It's very clear to me the VA's definition of mentally incompetent has nothing to do with mental health and everything to do with the simple fact that veterans need help balancing their checkbooks. It's a stigma to assume veterans are dangerous or suicidal simply because they have a mental illness. Every veteran with a mental illness deserves to be treated like an individual with individual needs. And we can't make sweeping policy changes based on harmful generalizations about disabled veterans, and policies must be based on real evidence. And the VA's fiduciary program fails to consider any evidence of dangerousness and fails to provide veterans with due process, and we've got to correct it. Now, I actually think it's great that there's only one lawyer on this subcommittee. And that, we're no offense. You spent a lot of time and money in law school, I'm sure, but I think it's a good thing that we have, that not everybody here is an attorney, that we can ask some of the basic, most common sense questions about policies for our veterans. We have many veterans on this committee who can also get into the heart of it. Under current VA procedures, veterans' rights are stripped from them by a purely administrative rather than judicial process. Under these procedures, veterans' rights are unjustly stripped from them, and Congress must right this wrong. And we must also make sure that the VA is working for our vets and not against them. So my first question is for Ms. Springer today. Do you think there may be survivors of military sexual trauma who hesitate to seek VA mental health care because of the risk the VA could strip them of their rights?
Thank you for the question, Congresswoman. I would broaden that to actually just all veterans in general, our VFW members, not just specifically MST survivors, because of the perception, whether true or not, that if they say the wrong thing, if they present a disability and condition, it could go from there to the NICS incompetency determination, then to a fiduciary assignment, and then to NICS.
My next question is for Dr. Simondera. Is it difficult for veterans to prove they're not dangerous in order to convince the VA to remove them from the NICS list?
Well, I think you've seen the statistics that when we get to this question of whether the veteran is a danger or not, that really only comes into play if the veteran applies or files a petition for relief of disability, of which, according to the statistics that we've seen from the VA, very few veterans, I mean, in the less than 100 a year, do that. At no other point in this process, from the very beginning to the determination of incompetency, to all of the appeals up to the U.S. Court of Appeals for veterans claims, et cetera, none of that addresses the issue of whether the veteran is a harm, potentially a harm to themselves or others. It's only if you file the petition for the relief of disability, then VA looks at a number of factors to determine that level of risk.
Okay. Captain McCormick, my question for you today, do veterans receive due process before the VA reports them to NICS?
Absolutely not.
And what roadblocks do veterans experience in the appeals process?
Multiple. It's a timely and it's a costly process that, you're asking a veteran to go and fight to re-secure the very rights that they serve to defend and protect. So you're stripping them of a constitutional right, that's a fact, and then you're asking them, well, you got an opportunity, you can go and fight for it. Well, I guess we could pull you over, arrest you for something, and say, well, you can always fight to get your right of freedom back. And I think that's the issue, is the level of fairness and the lack of due process as far as the judicial process. It's just ultimately unfair.
Does it erode trust in the VA for veterans?
100%. 100% erodes trust in the VA.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.